Yes, we are back. Thank you for joining us to this episode and our beautiful guests that we have. I'll bring you guys in a minute. And don't forget, if you're watching us live, right now you can listen on Spotify if you want to later on. And because we're live now, you can join in on the chat, send in your opinions and any questions. I'll try to bring them into the show. And on this episode, we've got Ollie from MX Performance. And we got Darko over here. How's it going, chaps? How you doing? You right? Say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Good stuff.
We've got our special guest down here.
Yeah, little mascot, Luca.
Luca Bazooka.
Luca Bazooka. How are you, Luca?
Huh?
Say hello.
Leave them. Come on. No.
So Darko, you're a member of the riding community. You've done some rallies. You've done some competing. Ollie, you are part of MX Performance, the managing director.
Our partner, Robbie and myself. Yeah.
Partner, Robbie and yourself, MX Performance, which is actually where we are hosting this mobile podcast today, which is cool, right in the store. So you guys all set for Christmas?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, we're ready to go, I suppose.
You're getting there. Oh, I need to be close to the microphone.
Yeah, so we can all hear you. Yeah, all set for Christmas, yeah? Got presents done?
We want everyone to come down to MX Online where we're sitting now and buy lots of Christmas presents and
hint.
get all their bikes serviced out the back with by Robbie. So that's the plan for Christmas. That'll make a good Christmas for me.
Good stuff. Yeah, so what's been going on lately? Let's start with Ollie. What's been going on? Down at the shop, down at the track, what's up?
Yeah, for us at the moment, we've been pretty heavily involved now. The season's in full swing. Everyone's riding again, so the workshop's busy. Lots of servicing, lots of rebuilds, engine, suspension, everything like that. Everyone's getting on board their suspension rebuilds and noticing the difference when they actually start doing that rebuild on the suspension. People don't realise they're all over the oil change for the engine. You know, every 10 hours, cleaning the filter, doing this, doing that, but it's the suspension that gets forgotten about a lot. You know, and we recommend around that 30 to 50 hours, do your suspension. It's a noticeable change in your in the pleasure of riding. So we've got that side going with the shop. And then the other side, we've got the two other sides, our support for the race teams. So we've got a couple of fast guys riding for us at the moment. A young Italian guy called Matteo. He's really quick on the 250 Yamaha, and then there's Khalid as well that we support, a Kuwaiti guy. So we've just been going to the racing, the desert racing at MX Ride, out there at Elaine Road.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that. That's a lot of fun. And then also at Jebel Ali at DMX, doing the riding there. So yeah, it's all a good time there. Busy, but good fun.
So busy down at the shop, yeah?
Yeah, very busy. And then on the back of that, we also do our training as well. Get up early and it's training newbies pretty much to ride. Through the Grit Girls, they refer a lot of the ladies there. And then even guys just jumping from the adventure bikes and that side of things into riding the smaller bikes. So doing that and also trying to get events planned, you know, another trip to Russell, up to Fujairah or Russell Khaimah.
We need some more of these long rides, man.
Something like that. So yeah, yes, you know what it's like in Dubai. It's quiet during summer and we're just like, you know, twiddling your thumbs. And then next thing it's just, you know, off the rev limiter.
Absolutely. And Darko, you been riding much lately? Been breaking any bones?
I broke a few bones this year. So last one with the ride with you actually in December.
It was a collarbone, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
how'd you do that? Roosting someone?
No, I don't remember. I roosted someone, but yeah, you know, I went off the bars and I just landed on a side and broke the collarbone. So it's been like since 12 months since then, and recovery was like quite long. And since I like basically recovered, I didn't ride so much, maybe like a few times per month, but it's not the same intensity like it was before.
I think
toilet break.
Because he wants to show you how to ride. Give you some lessons.
I think we'll need to take a small break.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. So pretty much in this episode, we're going to be covering riding etiquette. Right, Ollie had briefed you before. Darko's
Yeah.
definitely been briefed. Makki, we're going to be bringing in a little bit later on call because he couldn't make us in person. He's at work, but he's going to join us over the phone, which will be interesting. And in the topic of riding etiquette, we will cover roosting. Now, roosting within a community because, you know, it's inevitable. You're going to get roosted, whether you're on the track, on the gravel, on stones, in the sand, whatever. So it's inevitable and it's quite controversial. And the other is in a community sort of riding someone else's line to the grain of sand and too close. That fits within the riding etiquette, I think, as well. And also just generally taking care of the group, not just the guide or the leader taking care of the group, just, you know, everyone participating in making sure everyone is not lost and not injured.
Yeah, it's just a safety thing. The etiquette crosses over directly with safety. It's hand in hand.
Absolutely,
you know, like,
but it's one thing that goes massively overlooked in my observation, especially on the community rides. You know, whether it's from 3 riders up to 20, 25, 30, gee, we've even seen 45 riders, something like that on the odd occasion. And as 99% of the group are focused ahead of them.
Yeah.
I need to get there, I don't need to fall, I don't want to get left behind, I need to catch up. All of these things are going through their head. They don't tend to look back and check to see if the 2 other guys that were behind them are still there.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to the briefing, you know, before you even start the ride. Like things like this obviously really help putting it in people's minds, like how they should be riding without it even being told to them. But part of the responsibility of anyone who's organising a ride or leading a ride, I believe, is that meeting every single ride, regardless who's there. If you recognise every single person that's there, you still have that pre-ride briefing where you go outline a number of the things we're going to be talking about tonight.
Absolutely, yeah. So why don't we start off with the first topic in riding etiquette, and that's roosting. So let's lay the path there a little bit. So we're in the sand, and this only sort of really applies to community rides. Darko, you can relate to this. You somehow have been crowned the king of roosting, which
King of roosting, no.
Well, this is the talk in the community, especially on the WhatsApp groups. It all seems to be focused and targeted towards yourself.
I don't know, Jake Norton's pretty up there too, I say.
That's a little bit exaggerated, but okay, I take it.
We'll wait to get some chats in to see if we've got any comments on that. But with roosting, it's for anyone that doesn't really know what it is. I mean, you listeners are going to be pretty much in this field anyway. So, but for those that don't really know, it's when you're on the gas, either going over a dune, a jump on the gravel, dirt roads, whatever, and the rear wheel spinning up whatever you're going over at everyone behind you. Now, some say don't follow too close. I mean, that's a sensible thing to do. Don't follow too close, which then crosses over to the other one. Don't follow someone's line to the grain of sand.
100%.
But in the desert, when we are doing these community rides, my personal opinion, and talking from experience, because I used to just gas it all the time and roost whoever was behind me, and I didn't even know I was roosting them because I'm not looking behind me. And until we stop on top of a dune, I don't know, a kilometre down the way, and someone's like, yeah, cheers, dude, and he's like covered in all this red sand all down his top and in his face, his goggles, and he's eating it and sniffing it, and I'm like, oh, was that me? So now I look behind me, or I used to, and easing off the throttle when you're coming up the dunes. But it's when you're coming up the dune, again, depending on which bike you're on, which tires you're running, you've got to get it just right, cresting the top of the dune. Otherwise, you've got to gas it. If you're going too slow, you've got to gas it. You crest the top, you're still gassing it, and you throw all that loose sand over the backside of the dune. Am I right?
That's one of the best feelings, when you go over it and then you just slightly fly over the top and then just
full noise.
Open the full gas.
Absolutely.
So you're owning up to it.
No, it's different levels of rider too. Like, some people they're not at that level of confidence to carry that amount of speed into that dune or into whatever. But you've got to think about who you're riding with. Who's behind you when you pull off. You know who's there. You've got to be aware of that. And it's more, the roosting over a dune, it's no big deal. Like, you get filled in with sand and you're too close to that person and in that line if you're getting a face full of sand, and you know it. I've done it multiple times because you get carried away. You're going, next thing you're like, oh no, I'm right behind Darko.
Your name comes up again, dude.
But you know that's going to happen regardless. I could name everyone we ride with would do the same thing. But
let's name some names.
Yeah. Not yet.
But I know who's always behind me, and that's definitely Barry. So you have to watch him like...
You got Barry's name written across your throttle grip.
Barry never stays behind anyone for very long. He's always through.
He's up there roosting everyone else.
I hope he's listening, so I think he will like my comments.
But the big thing is, so that's the dune, where you mentioned before, like on the gravel and with these group rides, the number of times too, like say you're coming back from Nazwa or whatever, you're off the road, you've pulled onto the sand, there's a little bit of a gravel track or a road, and there's like stones, there's everything there, and someone will just full gas light the bike up when everyone's side by side riding along, and you just get stones like thrown at you, and like, yeah, they might just chip in, they damage your bike, but they can break your finger, they can hit, like the stones are real when they come off. People just need to be aware of their surroundings and what they're doing, I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah. New pair of goggles is my favourite. Like I can't, every time I get a brand new pair of goggles, after the first ride, a scratch or something. Yeah. It's just my luck, but you know, from roosting if a stone comes up. But yeah, this is mainly in community rides, isn't it? It's your tip there, I guess, would be being aware of who's around you, and that crosses over on all the other two, like following someone's line and looking out for other people. And
think about what you're doing. You know, like you're on a gravel road. I'm not going to, like, it depends who's behind me if they deserve a stone in the face. But you know,
I get carried away sometimes. You know, like I cannot deny it. But
is that what happens?
You
get excited.
There is like big pleasure. You know, like opening that throttle in a how would I say, like in the sand and gravel. Like it's part of the experience. So I don't think you should take everything, how would I say, as a personal attack.
That's just the thing, isn't it? It's trying to educate everyone else in the ride that it's not a personal attack. Yeah. It was an accident, I promise.
And just stay away from your back wheel.
Yeah.
Are you running a sand tyre?
No.
Thank God.
I haven't been riding a sand tyre for a long time. Just a standard one. But yeah.
Yeah, it's all a bit of fun. It's only when those rocks and everything like that it gets a bit more serious. You can get a little bit hurt, but in the sand, you won't make the mistake again if you're behind someone.
What is it like? What is the most common cause of roosting for those that don't know that they are doing it?
I don't know. It's just because roosting isn't a problem. Roosting only becomes a problem if there's someone behind you. Otherwise no one knows. It's just go over a dune, boom, a full gas. I do that every single day. Then the next thing, someone pulls up next to you. Oh, you just roosted me. Oh, what do you mean, man? I've done the same thing I do every time.
But Darko, do you ever roost deliberately, as in when the group is still?
No.
On top of a dune, do you go in front?
No. Definitely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've done that before. When everyone's sitting on top and then you just come through and you just get as many
just
people
cut
as you
up
can.
sand in front of everyone,
But then, if you do that, you've fired everyone else up.
Yeah.
That you're going to get that back tenfold. So.
Then it's a war after that, right? Yeah. They're all going to be coming after you, and that does happen, for sure.
Yeah. I've been accused of roosting some people, after helping me in the dunes, like especially when my battery ran flat. So I apologize up front, but that was not intentional.
Let's just say Darko's apology is out there now live to everyone for all future situations.
That's funny. Someone helped you out of the sand and you roosted them.
Yeah, there have been some occasions.
I was having a conversation with a certain female rider the other day. I won't name any names. We were having a right conversation over WhatsApp, and she mentioned to me a situation that she's got on video, and I asked if I could have permission to use it in this podcast, but definitely not. Where I think she was saying she knocked someone over or caused them to have an accident. And then when they were picking their bike up, she just roosted them and didn't even realise. And it's all on camera. So yeah, I mean, roosting is what 50% is deliberate, and 50% it can't be helped. So again, I think in my opinion, it's a bit of inexperience. There's a lot of riders out. There's a lot of new riders. They're following us up the dunes. They're following anyone else up the dunes, and they're not quite making it at the top, or they do make it at the top and they're still on the gas because they feel they need to have that forward momentum to not fall off. And even if they get a bit of air, the tires touch the sand again, bosh, loads of sand. I had one just the weekend just gone, actually. I'm glad I filmed it because I'll be putting a vlog together to put on my other channel, What Adventures. So if anyone's not subscribed to that one yet, I put a whole bunch of like moto vlogs on that channel. And the next vlog that I'm going to put up is riding etiquette. And I wanted to capture a whole bunch of examples of what it is like to be roosted. And you know, have you ever got those roosts where you've got the beginning part of the roost. It's like all of the sand clumped together before it powders off, and it feels like someone's punched you in the face. It's just like slap straight in the face, and somehow it just goes behind the goggles immediately. And then you can't see. And then another one is where you're coming over a dune and you're just about to get some air. You're in the air, you get roosted, you go blind mid-air, and then essentially you're just closing your eyes hoping you land at some point. Have you guys ever had a situation like that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially if you're if you're riding in some like narrow, sharp dunes, like what would be the good example? Albada area, you know, like the big dunes, like
Big Red.
And then you have these like sections with the sharp ones, and then everybody is like guessing it, and then you know, just on a tip of the dune, like you jump it over, and then you catch another side with the rear wheel. If you're close to someone, like it's like just someone like slapping you like for kilometers, like you know, like. So
if you're the receiving one getting the roost in the face of that as well, it's like, for example, I followed you, Darko, over a dune where you've jumped the dune and you've already disappeared, but I've heard, you know, and you've landed the other side, and then all of a sudden this roost comes out of thin air, it comes out of nowhere because you've already disappeared. So this roost just appears out of nowhere and slaps me in the face, and then I'm flying over and I can't see anymore.
Yeah. But it's part of the fun, so...
Yeah.
Well, doing it deliberately.
If you've been in the desert and you haven't eaten some sand and came back full of it everywhere, it's not a proper experience, you know.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
My wife is always complaining when I come back home and I leave it everywhere, you know, like around the house, in the shower, like it's just like walking like a sandbag.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
That's better. Come closer. Your voice is super low. Come right closer to the mic. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, what about when you have a shower, you swear you don't have any sand on you, let you get out of the shower?
Oh, it's not so easy getting it out as well, like...
What about riding? Let's say the other tip for riding etiquette would be, again, in a community ride, what I tend to see is a lot of people following the person in front's line. I mean, to a degree, that's okay if you've got some distance. And again, like in the desert terrain, like half a meter to the left or to the right over the dune, it can completely be different, right? There's a ditch. Yeah. And then the person in front of you actually has gone around a nice wavy part of the dune and gone to safety, and half a meter to the left and you've hit a ditch. So that's why I think people tend to follow someone else's line, but shouldn't do it to the grain of sand, right? Like there should be some distance, and then that crosses over with roosting as well.
Yeah, well, you can if you're going to follow someone's line exactly, you need to give them enough distance where you can always see them. You know, they're not just disappearing over a dune and crashing and then you land straight on top of them. You know, so you're not going to get roosted, you're not going to land on someone. It's all those things. That's why you shouldn't follow that exact line. And if you do, then, like I was saying, you need to be able to see them. Like, okay, I'm following you, but I'm back far enough that you've hit that dune, you've gone over, and I can see you going for the next dune. Then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to follow the exact line. Otherwise, even if you go, I don't know, half a metre to the right or left, if you're going to ride that close to someone, you have to be off to the side, so that even being this far away from Darko, and then he eats it over the top, I can still avoid him. You know,
right, so you don't hit him, basically. Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Because we all ride close together. Some people like Barry like to ride a little bit closer to people. But other than
Extremely close.
yeah,
And fast at high speed.
It's a
Fast,
like
close, high
intimate
speed.
distance, you know.
Yeah, he likes to get intimate on the motorbike.
So what would you suggest? Like Darko, do you follow close to people? Do you follow someone else's line, or how do you do it?
I don't know, like in general, I don't like following strictly someone's lines, especially if we are riding for a practice, because it just doesn't keep you like, you know, like doesn't keep your attention 100%. Like I like to read the desert on my own and experience it. I mean, it's a part of the getting better in the desert is getting the feeling for the dunes and getting the feeling for the terrain and reading it. So it's a, you know, like whole like cycle that you need to absorb, like with all the senses. So it makes the following someone, you know, like it's like you switch not half of your brain, but part of your brain, and you don't put so much attention in riding. But I think it's in a maybe like for, let's say, learning or getting used to maybe some new terrain, it's definitely better to follow someone's lines. It's safer, you know. You can always see what's happening in front, and if there's some drop-offs or some danger.
What would you say is a safe distance? Like someone with your experience, Ollie. I mean, I guess, well, you two, me, I'm way behind. I'm amateur compared to you guys. But what would you say is a safe distance riding in the desert with the average of like 15 riders, that kind of thing? What do you reckon, Ollie?
The safe distance is depending on the dunes that you're riding through. You know, like if they're bigger or small. Like I said, generally you want to be able to see that person in front of you. If it's us riding through and the group that goes through, everything is super close to each other, like it's not ideal. But at a general rule, you want to be able to see someone where they are in front of you going over the dune if you're going to follow them and they're going to make it. There's no hard and fast, like you got to be 2 bike lengths behind someone or one. It's just like where you feel comfortable that you can avoid them or avoid danger, and that's up to the individual.
Do you think about it when you're actually out there, or is it only something now because we're talking about it?
No, you think about it all the time. Like it just depends, but who you're riding with and how competitive the ride happens to be that time. You know, how hungover you are or whatever, however you're feeling that day.
I would say, you know, riding like with the friends, and especially if the whole group is like on a similar level, and you have like some competitiveness in your, like it makes it like thrilling to ride in a close group.
Do you prefer to ride close?
I like it. I like rides that are a bit competitive, you know, a little bit silly, and so I wouldn't say I prefer to ride close, but I don't mind it as long as you keep some safety. You know, if you don't do stupid things, and if the people that are riding together are the, how would I say that, that perceive things in a right time, although it's of course never 100% possible, but you can always make mistakes at the end in the racing environment, especially in the motocross. Guys ride basically one on top of each other or whatever, you know, you're hitting someone, there's no distance, but it's definitely more fun, than, you know, just riding like in a choo-choo train, you know, like one behind another, like on a 10, 20 meters, 100
You like to
meters.
spice it up a bit.
Yeah.
What would you say, let's say, because we're discussing riding etiquette, what would you say is an ideal thing to do? What do you reckon, Luca? Is he riding yet? You got him riding?
No, he's like, he's not so keen and interested in the bikes. Like I was expecting that by this age he would be already, you know, into bikes, but no, just bicycles at the moment. We'll see. Like if
So he's on 2 wheels.
Yeah, not fully 2 wheels. It's a 3 wheels actually, but it's okay.
Just don't pass him down your habits. But yeah, what would you say is a safe distance for community riding, and not just safe distance? Because if you're following someone's line, for example, do you follow slightly to one side? Do you allow them to go a dune or a couple of dunes ahead? Do you follow closely? What is the best?
It comes
etiquette?
more from like that initial meeting and discussion you have before you ride, and whoever's taking people out needs to gauge the group and just instill in them too, because I just remember what it was like when I was taking people that had been in the desert the first few times. They've got a genuine fear about being left in the desert. You know, like you get so used to. For us, I remember when I first came, and I think Ben Menzies and Michael Pegram and all those guys were taking me out through Nazwa, through all out to Fossil Rock, and I had no idea where I was. Like, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But the more time you spend, you're just like, man, I go to the top of the dune, I see the pylon, the road's there, it's like you're pretty relaxed. So you've got to gauge the group and just let the group know that we've got guys at the back that are going to come through in the chase riders, and then you've got the lead group. No one's going to leave you, but that needs to be instilled in the group too, that it doesn't actually someone just get left behind and everyone goes. It needs to actually function like that. I think so. It starts from there. So then they aren't then riding beyond their skill level. Like they jump in and try to ride like Darko's riding, they're not going to make it over 2 or 3 dunes, and then the big pile up happens. So
would you say it's down to briefing?
Yep, I think a lot of the problems that people are having can be down to that briefing, and just that leader gauging the group that they're going to be taking out, not trying to push it too hard to show everyone how fast they are. If they've got faster guys, like we've been out with quick guys, and there's slower guys in the same group. So the quick guys, it's like, okay, like Darko's experience, like he said, and Tom and those guys, they love if the group's slower, they'll just go off to the side and do their own thing. Still have an awesome ride, set their own thing because they're not following in the line, and then they'll drop back in later on.
So would you say it's a good thing to do, even for like a beginner level? Just
no, I think it get you into a bit of trouble if you're still at that beginner level, because like Darko was saying, like you've got to be able to have a certain level of, okay, I'll come over there, there's a big hole, or what am I going to do, and to be able to handle if you're out there by yourself. I think it's that sort of, once you've got a bit of experience in the desert intermediate level, I think so, yeah, for sure. Like the group's going, maybe drop back a little bit and then go off to the side, check it out, then come back, go off to the side again. Like just start doing it a little bit at a time. But yeah, it's definitely the way to learn the desert.
Before we move on to the third one, let's see if anyone's got any input for the first, any roosting. So let's, you know what, I think let's bring Makki in, see if he's available. Let's give Makki a call. What would you brief, Ollie, at the beginning of a community ride? What would be the sort of top things to make sure riding etiquette is
straight away, where it's not a race. Everyone's here to have fun. You know, that's the first thing for a community ride. It's different when you organise your own little private rides and it becomes a race with your mates. But for a community ride, it's like it's not a race. This is the level we're going to be riding at today. You might turn up to the community ride and it's everyone there, you know, and everyone you know is going to be at a decent level. It doesn't normally happen like that.
I think we got Makki on the line. Makki, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
How you doing? Well, welcome to the podcast, man. You're live.
Thanks for having me, man.
Good stuff. We've got Ollie and Darko here.
Hey,
we're just discussing roosting. I wanted to bring you in and get your 2 cents. I mean, Darko's here, so you want to say something?
I'm literally here to incriminate Darko. That's why I've been called all the way from Abu Dhabi. Right?
Yeah, you're at work, right?
Yeah.
So give us your 2 cents on roosting, because we're talking about riding etiquette. I'm not sure if you're listening to the show live.
Yeah, I've been listening.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so something that's been completely left out, man, and I've been itching to snitch on is roosting in the pits. You know, everyone's talking about these community rides, and if you pop over a dune and someone's too close, you know, and a lot of that can be accidental, man. People fly through the motocross pits and roost trucks. You know, it's like,
who's done that?
Isn't there a rule on that? Like this, like slow in the pits, or is that?
No, they get beaten up if they've just thrown into your truck with rocks.
Yeah, let alone if they're reversed into it, Ollie.
Well, for any listeners,
We have to share that story a bit later on for sure.
for the listeners, like Makki, basically Stavrovsky here, he does rallies. I mean, you recently went to Saudi, and you did quite well there, I heard, right?
Arguable.
Okay. What do you
I mean, I done well on time, and then I got penalised 22 minutes for little silly things like speeding and running to the finish line by the wrong way. So
Missing
put me
the
back
track.
in seventh. Yeah.
Some improvements to be made, but you're into rallying, so you're very active when it comes to racing, especially in the UAE, in the Middle East, the GCC.
Yeah.
And you experience a hell of a lot of things, I guess, on that side. So is it Darko that's going through the pits, like spraying everyone, or is that just someone else?
It's just someone else generally. To be fair to Darko, he's not in the pits enough to reach anyone. So he doesn't ride anymore.
Good to
No,
get some
man. So
bags on
I
the
got
show.
a story about Darko that I've been itching to tell.
Yeah, let's see.
And,
Let's hear it.
The last time I rode with him, which actually isn't that long ago, we were trying to do some road book training over towards Liwa, which is, for those that don't know, is in the empty quarter, right? It's like in the middle of nowhere. So there's three of us riding along, and Darko's Charger replica breaks down. No surprise there. And so Brett takes his tank off, his seat off, to jumpstart Darko's bike. Gets the cables all hooked up, jumpstarts the bike. And the first thing that Darko does is flipping roosts him as he's riding away. Brett's got his toolbox in hand, his helmet's on the floor, his seat's there, his goggles on the ground, like, because he's got like half undressed to help jumpstart this bike. And then Darko's gone, right? His bike's running. He don't care anymore.
There was no time to stop.
Peril tank open.
I
as
had
well,
only
no doubt.
one chance to go, and I used it. So
You took your chance and you left Brett, man.
Darko, you're putting you're putting you're the king of roosting. So you're putting the K into king for roosting.
that's just like some moments getting exaggerated. I won't say it's not true. It's true, but it was not intentional. I apologized.
What about yourself, Makki? When you're out there, racing, is roosting a part of the competing, or
Do you know what?
Yeah,
It is an absolute incredible technique. So like at Saudi just gone, we came out the start gate and immediately there was 12 of us lost. And then, which is a whole nother story, but what happens is when the first person to get unlost finds the waypoint, then it's a rat race, right? There's no rules. You want to be at the front of the pack, because otherwise you're following 12 tracks of roost. So basically you do anything to get ahead, and you hang off that throttle so you get ahead of the pack. And then if anyone gets close to you, you use it, and you just flip the throttle to shower them with rocks and the like, because you need to be ahead, because otherwise you're going to miss out on points, time, the whole situation. But it's different with that because you're actually competing, right? It's not like a community ride where everyone's going to sit down and have a beer afterwards.
Do you take that same mentality over to the community rides then when you are riding in the community, or are you aware?
It depends, right? So like, generally speaking, I don't try and roost people, and if I'm setting off, I set off nice and steady. I paddle with my feet to save roosting someone if there's someone behind. Man, if I can hear your engine as I'm cresting a dune, you're too close to me. I ride with earplugs, right? And if you're behind me, I'll deliberately hit the limiter and drop the clutch just to kick up that big powdery ball of sand. Because I mean, the desert's massive, man. You don't need to get that close to someone. It's dangerous as well. I've been like,
now is the moment to bring Barry in.
Barry.
Yeah. Hey, we got Barry on the line.
Naming and shaming. Sorry, Barry.
Give him a call.
Yeah.
Let's hope he's listening. If he's not, he'll be watching this on the replay and certainly have something to say about it. But I think we can all verify Barry there. I mean, we're not naming and shaming, just having a laugh. So Makki, what would you say to following lines in a community ride? Like, what do you do? Do you come up close? Are you at speed? Are you finding your own lines? What's up?
So I actually learned to ride desert over here. I was never good at it. I was from a trials background. The first community rides I went on were with Ollie, I think, back in the day, like 3 years ago now. And initially, like, I was absolutely a track follower because, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's quite scary going into the desert when you're not used to it, you know, and you don't know where anything is, especially like going to Dubai to ride, and you don't know where things are, let alone what's in the desert. And then as you develop and stuff, you start changing your line, and then, you know, you hit those big pockets of holes. If you try and follow the tracks just off to the side, I think sometimes it's more dangerous than just choosing your whole new line. You know, so at the moment I actually ride like outside of the group by like 40 meters to the left or right, which comes with its own problems. You know, if you fall, or if someone else decides to do the same, you don't know they're there, you can crash into them. But yeah, sometimes you ride out from Motorzone or from, you know, any of the group ride spots, and it'll be like, get to certain points in the desert and there's a singular track of 20 bikes that have ridden this little V shape. It's crazy.
Have you ever hit anyone before?
People have hit me before,
but not the other way around.
I mean, technically we hit each other, so yeah, I guess.
What was your most recent incident in? Let's just focus on communities because that's pretty much where riding etiquette is applied. What's the worst you've ever seen in a community ride involving yourself?
That's a really difficult question, man, because it comes a little bit down to if it's malicious or not, doesn't it? So like, Darko is the king of roosting, but I think it's seldom malicious. You know, I don't think he ever roosts people out of anger at them. I think he does it more because he just doesn't realise, because he's the destroyer. You know, he's just having a good time. And to be fair, there's not a lot of malicious roosting going on that I've seen. You know, it's quite nice. That's why it's a community ride. If you're not part of the community, I don't think you show up for the rides. It's one of them.
I'll spray the odd person. Like we were talking about, everyone sat on top of the dune resting. I don't know why I've done it a couple of times. Just going around, cut the sand, just spray everyone, and then it starts a war. I guess that's why I think I'm doing it. I got my GoPro filming. I want to get some
action.
Exactly. Yeah. Come on, it's just everyone's like following the ride's getting a little bit mundane. Let's get dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure giving us your 2 cents. If you've got something else to say, don't just hit us up and we'll get you on the show in person sometime soon, eh?
Nice one, man. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one at work. Cheers, dude.
Take it easy, guys.
See ya.
Bye, Makki.
There we go, and that was Makki. Thanks for coming on there and giving us 2 cents. Let's go into the third topic, because this one's close to my heart, because I noticed this one a hell of a lot. And I think it's something that needs to be improved, especially in community riding. Is for example, I've led a couple of rides before, and I've been up front, and I look back and I'm counting riders, and it's not something you know how to do unless you're leading a ride. Ollie, you can vouch for this. Darko, I think you've led a few rides as well. You look back and you're like, okay, I've got to have the safety for the group, and you start counting riders coming over the dunes, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then there's the 10s. Like, everyone's here, good. Now I can move on. Everyone's accounted for. I think that same principle should carry over to everyone, even if they're not leading. Like, if you're second or third from the back, you look over and you're like, okay, I found my pace. The two behind me, they're their pace. They're not going to overtake me anytime soon. They're not fast enough, for example, or with the same pace. But I know there's 2 people behind. I look back, 2 people, and I look back again, and I'm like, oh, I only see 1 person. It's that very looking back and being aware of who's still behind you, and then think, okay, I still don't see that last person, that second person there. I should stop, go to the highest dune, see if I can see them at the highest dune. Now, I want to bring that into riding etiquette, because that generally just keeps us all safe and without getting lost. What do you guys think to that?
Yeah.
Well, definitely, like, you know, if you're going in the desert, you always have to be aware who you are with, and, you know, your surroundings and what's going on. And at the end, you have to have responsibility for yourself and for others around. Like, you cannot just leave people in the middle of nowhere, no matter if you're leading the group or if you're on your own. It's one of the things that I don't like. If I go riding with someone and I see that they are not taking care about the group, like I had few occasions, especially when I was a beginner, where I went with riding with some random guys and I crashed, and then just went on their own. Nobody came back to check if I'm okay,
That's awful.
Or maybe I broke my legs or whatever. It just went off, and you don't know the desert well. You're just like randomly going back and looking for a way home. So from these first experiences that I had here when I started riding, I know one thing I learned, you have to be careful that, especially if you're in big groups, that you don't miss someone. Like if you go in a groups of 30, 40, 50 people, it's so easy to just miss some random guy or girl, whatever. Like we had occasions where people join the group, maybe you don't know some of them very well. You go for half an hour, 1 hour, or maybe they decide, it's not for me, or I don't know, they just go somewhere off the line, or they take their own route. They don't let anyone know where they are. Yeah. And
there is that as well. That's a good point. Yeah. I've not thought of that. I just thought of people just generally looking straight forward and not looking back. But the guys that decide to actually go off by themselves, or this isn't me, I'm going somewhere, that can mess up those that are keeping track of the amount of numbers in the group.
That's briefing again at the start. Everyone I used to always say, who's behind you when the ride starts. It's not a race. Everyone will fall into their own natural position in the ride. Just every now and then you look over your shoulder. You don't have to be flat out. When it's safe, take a look, see who's there. Okay, they're there. Okay, they're not there. Stop on that next highest dune. Wait. Just wait to see who's coming. If they still don't come, then you turn around and you go back to look for them. It just depends on what the group is, because sometimes if there's someone stopped, by the time the lead rider stops, they'll go, okay, boom, 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 there's people waiting. Lead rider will go back and find the person. It just depends on the level of riders you're riding with, because if you're not at that level where you're confident to go back looking for people, just stay where you are and then someone will come back for you.
What's dangerous as well is also like you have guys that ride and if, for example, we talked about following lines, some of them don't follow the lines. They go like off the line like 40, 50, 100 meters. If you're in a deep lines, in a deep dunes, and let's say you're moving fast, you're the one leading, you turn around, there's a guy missing, and maybe he's down deep in the dunes, like just going parallel with you, but you have no clue he's there. A few times like that, I almost lost a, friend. Like we went riding together, like just in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly I have only one line behind me, like it's mine. Where is he? Like, I turn around, there's no one. Then you go back. He doesn't realize that you went back. He just, like goes full speed ahead. And I spent like 5-10 minutes looking for him in the back. Then I realized, there's a line that's going there, and he's already like maybe 15 minutes ahead in front. He doesn't care, So, it's even if you're faster than the guy that leads, or maybe you want to have fun on your own, you need to somehow, always be in a visual distance. And if you're not following him, other guy has to, like you, or actually both of you have to be in a connection, or not both, like maybe whatever number of people.
Some kind of understanding.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring up too that if someone falls in front of you over a dune, you come over the dune, they've crashed. Don't stop your bike next to them because you're on a blind dune. Go past them, turn around and put your bike on top of the dune where they've fallen.
Right.
And so that goes too. If someone comes along and they should know if there's a bike on top of a dune with no person, there's something going on the other side of the dune.
Right.
Because too often you see they're in a group, someone you'll fall right in front of me. Then I come over and I just stop next to you and go, oh, geez, Carly, you all right? Let me help you up. Meanwhile, everyone else hasn't seen that we're both on the other side of the dune.
Yeah.
So even that person could be screaming, whatever they're hurt, unless they're, physically stuck under the bike and you need to actually use some common sense. But otherwise, just turn around, bike on top, then go assist the person.
Yeah, because the desert it's still a wide open space. There's still a lot of land out there. And one thing I've noticed recently is there's a lot more bulldozers, there's a lot more things being constructed out there, a lot more construction happening. And I've started to see a lot more of these metal rebar with little tiny flags on them. I mean, fair enough, they put in some
dangerous.
They're super dangerous. And this comes back to what you were saying, Darko, is if you fall off and injure yourself, you said maybe break your leg. When you were saying that, I was thinking maybe you fall on top of one of these spikes and impale yourself. It's a possibility. That is when you're not even in a position to phone someone, because self-service is pretty much everywhere out there. So you are safe to a degree. But if you're unable to move or unable to call for these things or call for emergency, you're relying on someone who's already gone to look back maybe 2, 3, 5 minutes later to be like, oh, where's Darko gone? Or where's he gone? I'll follow my line back to see if I can see him. Is he falling asleep?
Yeah,
we're boring him.
It's not me snoring.
He's tired, so I'll have to take him home soon. Yeah, but you're right. Like, you never think about things that can go wrong. Like, you usually want to have fun, But there have been many cases where people had serious accidents, and things can go wrong, and maybe we don't think about these kind of things often, but you need to do whatever you can to minimize it. Although it's, I say it now, but I'll be the first one that when I sit on the bike, I'll forget about this. Maybe for myself, not for others, but first for myself, like in 15 minutes of riding. But definitely, like you can choke, like you crash, maybe you go unconscious. If there's no one to pull your tongue out, you can choke, That's why. That's one of the main reasons, not because of the tongue and choking, but these kind of instances that can happen. It's kind of starting to frustrate me a lot more in the community that we're not taking care of everyone. The leaders are the ones that have the most experience. I'll specifically say Ollie, because you've got a lot of experience leading group rides, rallies, long rides, that kind of stuff. You've been doing this a long time, and you can definitely see it in your characteristics. You take care of the group, and that comes from a leader. Again, it comes from experience. The other thing is making sure that what was I going to say? Yeah, it was very much in line with that. Like if you're following, there are the tips to put your bike on top of a dune, or follow a line back to see if you can see someone, or the briefing especially. So these few things, I guess, to consider when you're on a community ride is to practice these things. Like next time, anyone that's listening that are doing community rides, go out, and if you're like fifth in the group of 20 riders and you're fifth from the back, although you consider yourself at the back, you've still got 4 riders behind you that you could be the one to take care of, right? So I guess practicing it. What kind of techniques, what kind of things would you say to help people be a bit more aware of it?
I don't know, it's just more time on the bike and just being self-aware, not being so focused on yourself all the time, and just thinking, like Darko was saying, you have to look after each other, because stuff goes really sideways really fast. Everyone's having a great time, and then the next thing, someone's broken a femur and they're sticking out the side of their leg. And then we've had that. Everyone's had numerous things like that. People have died in the desert. It's a real thing, which we all forget about. And you don't want to dwell on it. We like the dangerous side of it, but we can, I think negate some of the dangers as well that make it exciting, and just look after each other. So it's just not getting things to practice. It's just spending more time in the desert, more time with people that you trust, with having someone that can provide you good advice.
That's what I think it is.
Not just someone there who just wants to show you how fast they are every time they ride, and you're just hanging off the back, trying to keep up, not learning anything. you need to have there someone where someone just pulls you aside and go, oh mate, you know, just like keep an eye on Darko because he's always behind. Keep an eye
roosting
on
everyone.
Yeah, just keep an eye.
Roosting no one because he's at the back.
Yeah, just keep an eye on that guy behind, or just the nice ways of telling people without saying, oh, you know what, when you just jumped on your bike there, you just roosted 10 people behind you, like, unless it's done on purpose, you know, just say, you know what, like, just take your weight off the seat a little bit, second gear, whatever, and start just paddling it, let the bike go first, and then you get a bit of traction, sit down and go, you know, rather, just little things like that, where you're not trying to, it's a fine line between being, you know, condescending and people think you know it all, to trying to just give a little bit of helpful advice.
That's what I think it's the lack of advice, and it's well put, because let's say when a new rider is getting initiated into riding, when I say initiated, they're finding a community to ride in, and the communities are quite small out in the desert. There's pockets of us, right? And some are bigger than the others, some like it to be small and niche and stuff like that. But depending on how they get initiated into those groups, it's, oh, I've got a bike now, and now I can go out and ride with these guys. I go out and ride with these guys, I copy what they do, and they're all facing forwards, experienced, riding, having fun, riding fast. And then there's no kind of hand-me-down advice of, oh, you should actually be keeping this in mind and keeping this in mind. Some are going for training, you know, like I think you offer training, right, Ollie? There are other trainings and stuff like out there. Is this something that you cover in training as opposed to just how to ride a bike?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on what level you're at. So a beginner, first of all, is just trying to ride the motorcycle. But then as soon as it starts going into dunes and crossing dunes, it's the technique of how you approach the dune and that side of it. And then that at the same time it gets told, like, yeah, if there's a bike sitting on top of the dune with nobody on it, you know there's someone on the other side, you know.
Yeah. So is this
That's
stuff that you cover in your training?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
depending on the level of rider, what you are. But that's why even people that are... I remember when I first came to the desert here, I'd ridden a bike obviously before in Australia a fair bit. And then you come here and you ride in the desert, and I think I went with some of Westie's guys, some of James West guys or something. I went along on this group ride. And I just did what they were doing. That's all I did. Same thing. I was terrified. I was just holding onto the bike and just launching off stuff because they did. I was lucky to get back in one piece.
So you're just mimicking everyone else in that community?
Yeah, but you do that, and I think that's it's like a mistake. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. And then I go off and ride in the dunes by myself, and I broke my nose and knocked myself out because you just see, oh yeah, this dune, because you have no idea how the desert works. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Next thing, straight off the fourth one that wasn't like the first three.
The rest
you see also like lots of experienced riders coming abroad, you know, like and taking desert for granted, like and you know, like there's so many infinite combinations of the terrain in the desert. There's no way that you can predict it, however good you are, and people get injured. Like some, you know, like if you've never been in the desert and you never experienced like maybe like a danger of the drop off, you know, like, and then you think like it's sand, you know, like, oh, okay, I'll somehow, you know, grab it, catch it, and then, you know, once you have a serious injury, you start dreaming these drop offs and stuff like this, you know. You get a fear from making mistakes in the desert, and if you go as a beginner without, you know, not having that fear and not knowing the desert, and going with someone that is already, you know, like knows how to manage the terrain, I think it's a very, very dangerous way forward, and you will definitely end up in hospital quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the beginners, they need to know that it's not just beginners that need to get used. Like I could ride when I came here. I still almost knocked myself out, you know, the first time. So it's not. And then I've had guys from Italy that I've taken on training like into the desert, and they wanted to go to Dakar. These guys are way better riders than me, but they still came and wanted me to take them through the dunes so they could experience the dunes, because they had never ridden that stuff before. So the beginners need to know it's not a sign of weakness that you're getting coaching or getting training from someone. Get it from me, get it from Jared, get it from MotorZone, get it from, Kobe Motorsport. Shout out to Jared there.
Yep, nice shout out there.
He's doing really good things training. Great rider himself. But those guys just get training from somewhere.
Yeah, that's what
everyone
I think.
can benefit from it, but particularly if you're going into the desert, you'd be an adventure rider, whatever rider you are. You can ride a motorbike, you get it, and you jump on and you just go straight into that group ride. Just like, the guys aren't going to be that helpful, to like take you and like give you actually training tips. They don't have time. They're busy leading the ride. They might notice it's something you're doing wrong. Just go do 1 lesson, 2 lessons. Just someone to give you the basics of how to get over a dune and the whole safety thing too, and the etiquette.
You're going to sign up, Darko? Get some training.
I think like
some people are just untrainable.
Whatever you do in general, like I think lessons are like a great thing to speed up the learning curve. Like no matter the level of rider or whatever. Like I know, a few years back, few of us did some lessons with Aaron Mayer. Like I think in a few lessons I learned more than on my own, like in a 1 year or more. Like just having someone looking at you from a independent view, like saying, hey man, like you're doing completely stupid things, and you're not even aware of it. You don't see yourself in the mirror riding. You think, I'm doing this right, and you're completely, like off the charts. So definitely for anyone, like from the beginner to the professional level, I think it's definitely something to...
Do you have any problem saying these kind of things to someone out in a community ride?
What do you mean problem to saying that someone should take the lessons or...
No, like if you were giving some advice, coaching, like if you're on a community ride and, I was blindly roosting or crossing people's lines too close to them, like, when you've seen that, I'm there, someone's slightly in front and they just start crossing over your line and like, whoa, hey man, I was just about almost crashed into you, that kind of stuff.
Yes, so when with that, you're saying crossing, so you have to watch out for the person in front. They don't have to watch out for you.
Right.
So with that crossing line thing, it's like you'll go to give that person right away in front because they don't know you're there. So they might go, you want to just send that dune. And they're like, no, I want to carve across it.
Yeah.
And that's where you just got to be careful. So yeah, I've got no problem telling people, especially if it's dangerous.
That reminded me of something actually.
I won't tell it to the guys that I don't know, only in case it will be something completely, stupid or like maybe dangerous. I would tell it to the friends we ride often with, you're doing stupid things or something like this. But if I'm with someone first time, I don't feel good, like giving him, lessons or complaining, just okay, maybe he's not aware, it's not intentional. Let us just have fun.
That's why I ask, because it's when you're out there.
Circumstance.
Yeah.
Depends on the circumstance.
Yeah, right. Definitely. Like you can't just be like, oh, hey, you need to stop doing this and this. Is like, well, you're bossing me around. Or, it is a little bit of coaching and it does contribute. Yeah. There's a time and place, I guess.
Yeah, and it depends, if you're just participating as a rider, someone's done something really dangerous, where you're like, man, you got to be careful because you almost killed that person. Yeah. Or you're leading the ride and you see something, then you're responsible for the group. Yeah. But if you're just riding along, you're just like, oh my God, that guy's a moron. Yeah. I'm just going to stay away from him. Right. then you do. Like, for example, Darko, I know you roost and I know Barry roosts and there are a couple of other roosters. Roy from MotorZone roosts as well. Like when you follow him, he doesn't so much anymore. There are people out there just continually still do it. I'll stay away from them now. But I'm not going to go up to them and be like, oh yeah, you're rude. Okay, first couple of times I probably did, but and then if they continue to keep doing it, it's like, all right, it's just style. I'll back off a little bit or just stay away from you. Yeah. And what we were talking about just now with crossing lines, that reminded me of a situation. One of my riding buddies, Hugo, a Brazilian guy, early morning, I think it was a Wednesday morning ride, I can't remember, but it was first thing, we had just launched off and there was this one jump. And I'd already started feeling confident. I was like, hey, I'm already warmed up. I feel great. I got up this dune, following him up a dune, and I'm already in the air. And he slowed down because I think he just reduced the throttle as he reached the top. And you know how quickly that can slow you down.
And then I was on top of him. And my front wheel just cuts straight down his back and then hits his mudguard. And I go flying off and he's like, hey, what the hell just happened, you know? And in that instance, yeah, it is a little bit of my fault. I wasn't close to him. So it's hard to judge who would be responsible there, because you're out. He slowed down for no fault of his own. It just happened, and I guess it's the danger of the sport as well, right?
No, it's just you got to know who you're following. Like if we hit a section of jumps where I know Darko is going to hit it flat out, it's different. There's still enough room there, but to be riding that close where you might land on someone, you have to be on a different line. I think so anyway.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, I had a huge realization after that. I was just
it's not even like, you know, even in motocross, you know, you're on the track and you're jumping, like unless you really know that person's going to hit that jump at the same speed as you just roll off. Like I do that all the time at the motocross. I get a shit start in the motocross track and coming up to the jump, and there's guys in front of me. I'm not hitting that jump to jump it because I don't know if they're going to jump it in front of me. We're not all A grade. Well, I'm far from A grade.
Well, I guess
rider.
There's an understanding, isn't it? When you're in a track environment, you're on the track to race. Let's say it's a race. You're not there practicing, because I think that would be completely different. There'd be different levels. But if you're there racing, those different levels of racing that they have. What kind of levels do they have actually in MX?
Here, so they're just like the open, like MX1, MX2, the quicker guys, and then they just have the different age classes, like masters and veteran, like over 40s, I think, and over 50, right. And
so they do categorize
clubman and then novice. So there's generally try to put people together. But in my age group, like there's guys that I'm riding with that are like way faster than me, you know. So, but they don't jump on me when they come part. If I'm in front of them or they got a bad start, they see me, then they don't jump the jump because they know I'm probably not going to do it.
Right.
So but in the desert like that, coming up behind someone, unless your guys are looping around and practicing and you know you've all hit that same jump, I wouldn't have followed him.
So you're saying essentially it's having an understanding of who you're riding near or riding next to, or who's in the group, like what sort of level they're at.
And what you're going to do, but even like, I wouldn't follow right behind Darko up a jump, you know, like...
You're not living this down, mate.
Definitely.
No, I wouldn't follow behind him up there, or even like even Ian, like one of my good mates who I ride with all the time, and Paul, like there's no way I'm following him straight up behind up a jump, because anything can go wrong. Like Hugo slowed down that time. Yeah. But let's say Ian's bike through a chain, or who knows, whatever.
On the other side of the dune.
Yeah, or something happened to him, you know, his bike, and he just stalled on the face, and I'm just like, well, you know, sorry, mate.
You know what's funny is you going up one of these dunes where you can't see the other side, like a knife edge or something like that. It's not even a roller dune, it's just like the peak, right? And you go over it and you see, and you know when you're sort of following, when you start understanding the terrain, you don't go straight up it and over, well, unless you rally, but you kind of curve around and pop over it sideways, that kind of thing. And then so you know what kind of direction that the rooster's going to go. The spray is definitely going to go that way because he's facing that way, right? So you would think that. But 50-50 what happens to me is they end up turning direction on the peak of the dune, and I'm already over here trying to miss their roost, and then they turn, and then you get the roost anyway. It's like, God damn it, how can I get out of this? So, yeah, I think we should pretty much wrap it up there. It's been a good discussion.
Luca has enjoyed this discussion, definitely.
Yeah. He's well involved.
Yeah. Whenever he's struggling to sleep, just send us
deeply involved. Yeah.
I can hear him snoring. It's hilarious. Cool. Past his bedtime.
Yeah. Hopefully it helps some people and people see it. It's the main thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I wanted to get you guys on, and anyone else that's listening in the community to get on eventually in some upcoming episodes, and hopefully that this discussion around the riding etiquette of roosting, following someone else's line, and generally taking care of the group. Whether you're in a small group or a large group right at the back and there's only a couple of people behind you, just have some spatial awareness. That's my biggest one. Like roosting, I don't care. It's funny. It adds some character to the ride. It's hilarious. You can have a go at someone. You can have a joke. You can get them back. Start a war. whatever, that's fun. But still, ease off on the throttle as much as you can. Be a bit more aware of the roosting and who's behind you. Be a bit more aware of how close you are riding to someone else. Adds to the safety, and generally just looking around. So hopefully it's brought some awareness to some people, and I see some change out there in the community. When to tell someone or coach someone or advise someone, find an appropriate time to do it so you don't come across as the bossy one or whatever. But still, I think it still should be said to some degree. So yeah, I'm going to end it there. Thank you for everyone for joining us and listening in. It's always a pleasure. I like create more of these episodes. So if you want me to cover anything in any future episodes, let me know. I hopefully have some of you on. And subscribe to my other YouTube channel, What Adventures. But the one that I'm streaming on now is where all my podcasts are going to go. Because on the other channel, I put a lot of motor vlogs, a lot more interesting stuff coming up in the future, especially for this winter season and the rally raids. Ollie's going to be doing some longer rides as well. We can go on those, which will be awesome. And I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode, in the next video, or on the next vlog. Thanks for listening.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.